Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Alpha Podcast, the show where we talk about the latest, hottest topics in pop culture and sports. I am your host, Jayden, and we are going to be talking about Game 4 of the Knicks and the Celtics alongside the T-Wolves and the Warriors. And we're going to give my little interpretation of what I thought about the draft lottery last night. But before we get into all that, be sure to follow the Alpha Podcast on Spotify and Apple, as well as like the podcast and share it to your family and to your friends. Do not hesitate to hit the like button on the podcast as well. To get right into it, the NBA world mourns the tragic injury that occurred to Jason Tatum last night. Given the play, he was a non-contact injury. He was trying to make a play on the basketball after OG got the steal. And he tried to make a play, and he planted his back leg, and you could see from the video a pop. Jason Tatum could not put no pressure on his ankle at all. He was crying. He was wheezing. And I automatically knew that that was definitely an Achilles tear. It is Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We have not heard anything about the injury as of now. He was scheduled to get his MRI today, but haven't heard anything yet. But we are more than certain that it was an Achilles tear. And it's tragic because I'm going to start off really the first half is just this game was a Jason Tatum masterclass by all means. We have been given, I have been crapping on Jason Tatum and his play in this series since game one. He has struggled to shoot the ball. He struggled to shoot the three. The past two games of the series, well, not the past two games, the first two games of the series, there were situations in both of those games in crunch time where Jason Tatum was settling for three-pointers, knowing he wasn't hitting the three ball very efficient at all in the first couple of games, during those games, in those two games. Instead of using his body, getting to the rim, shooting a mid-range fadeaway, that is still Jason Tatum's game. But in a game where he got injured, and in a game where he was putting on an all-time historic performance in his playoff career, in his career in general, he had to get hurt. But he was on a heater early. The Celtics in the first quarter shot 9 first quarter threes. They scored 12 points in the last minute and a half. In the first half, for the Knicks' point of view, Cat, really specifically Karl-Anthony Towns, he was struggling to get foul calls. There was a big free throw differential in the first half of the game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Knicks only shot 4 free throws compared to the Celtics 12 to 15. I can't quite remember the graphic that they showed in the first half last night. The Knicks were down 11 or 12 in the first quarter, and at the end of the second quarter, they got the lead down to 4. And then started getting inconsistent offense from Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns, struggling to get foul calls, forcing shots, and then they found themselves down significantly going into halftime. And then something changed in the third quarter. Jalen Brunson started to play, and the flagrant foul that got called on Jaylen Brown shifted the momentum of the whole game. It reminded me a lot of the Duke game against Houston where Mason Gillis got that flagrant foul called on him, and it just shifted the whole momentum of the game. This was the same type of criteria. I was curious of why they called that a flagrant foul. All that happened was Jaylen Brown got up under the jump shot path trajectory of Jalen Brunson. In the past, I've not seen this called a technical foul, but the broadcasters wanted to signify that this year they wanted to crack down on these type of plays. So that is inevitably why they did what they did and called it a flagrant one foul. Changed the whole trajectory of the game. Jalen Brunson got 3 free throws, and they got the possession back. And Jaylen Brown ended up getting in foul trouble in the second half, which forced him to sit down majority of the fourth quarter and the end of the third quarter. And Jason Tatum was doing Jason Tatum things. Jason Tatum was the only reason why the Celtics were in this game last night. Porzingis wasn't consistent. He hasn't been healthy all series. Jaylen Brown has not been aggressive. He's not been playing his game. He's not been playing to the all-star, all NBA type player that he's needed to be for the Celtics. Drew Holiday hasn't been able to hit shots either. Has not been had a prominent presence on defense like he has been in the past. I could tell he was holding his knee a lot during the game, so I'm guessing he's dealing with an injury as well. But the Knicks showed their grit and their heart in the second half. Starting with Jalen Brunson with the clutch points, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges as well. Those four guys showed up in the second half and showed out when it come to their elite shot making. Mikal Bridges getting down to the paint and shooting his shot, that fadeaway mid-range jumper. It's money every time. Jalen Brunson doing what he needs to do when it came to making that big three there with 2 minutes left to get them within a 6-7 point lead. Going down, driving, getting foul calls. Karl-Anthony Towns getting rebounds, doing what OG Anunoby as well, getting scrappy, getting that big steal that occurred during the Jason Tatum injury, and making, I don't know what's the word I want to use. Catapulting, that's the word I want to use. Catapulting the Knicks to winning this game and getting up on the Celtics 3-1. And it is more than likely looking that the Knicks are headed to the Eastern Conference Finals because of that's what we're going to talk about now, the tragic injury of Jason Tatum. It was so bad, guys. Given the way Tatum has played most of the series and the way that I have been killing him, he put on an absolute masterclass. How I was talking crap about him during game 1 and game 2 about how he wasn't being aggressive, not playing his style game, forcing threes, not being efficient. He was the opposite of that tonight. He looked like he deserved to belong in the conversation as being the face of the NBA. He was putting on that type of performance in a big game. You're down 2-1. You're on the road at the Garden. The Knicks are firing all cylinders in the second half, and he was showing up to play first half and second half, even though he kind of went a little cold in the fourth quarter. But I promise you, we all wanted to see Jason Tatum be in the limelight and with a chance to try and come back from the Knicks. The bull rush that the Knicks were putting on the Celtics, because Jason Tatum could not get no help. And the Celtics could literally look combobulated after Jason Tatum's injury. Jaylen Brown looked like a deer in headlights. Pritchard looked like a deer in headlights. Derek White. They just couldn't find a way to win this game. And what does this mean what does Tatum's injury mean for the Celtics, and what does it mean for the series? This is tough because if Jason Tatum is feared to have an Achilles, he is going to be out most of next season. Achilles is a good 9 to 11 month process. That puts Jason Tatum possibly being back after the All-Star break, but he's not going to be 100%. I would try and do whatever Kevin Durant did with his Achilles, because he has seemed to not miss a beat since coming off his Achilles back in 2019. I would go that route, figure out what type of, get up with Kevin Durant. I know they're buddies and they talk on a regular. Get up with him, figure out what exactly type of routine and doctors did he use, therapy and all of that. I remember KD having a pretty lengthy recovery. He missed all of that in the very next season. But Tatum is a lot younger, obviously. So maybe he's going to be able to recover a lot faster than maybe what KD did. Maybe the Achilles tear might not be as major as KD's was, given I'm not at 100% certain, but I can assume that all Achilles tears are probably not the same, and different people react to therapy different than others do. The Celtics are in a rough spot because, if I'm not mistaken, there's a chance this team is not this exact team is not going to be together next season. I know it was going to be a tough hill to climb, but given where Tatum got hurt, I think they were down 6 or 8. There's 3 minutes left. I still think the Knicks were going to win that ball game. But you cannot tell me that you still didn't give the Celtics a chance to come back from 3-1. All of the games that have been won by the Knicks have been close, outside of last night. But the first 2 games, they killed themselves. They shot themselves in the foot, the Celtics did. So you really can't sit here and tell me with a straight face that you really, if they had a healthy Tatum, they couldn't have came back from 3-1. Because the Celtics were the best team on paper and on the court in person. And they were still the favorites to win it all. Now, with this injury for Tatum, they are fixing to go home. The team is not going to be together next year. And where does Joe Mazzulla and the front office for the Celtics go from here? You got a guy in Jaylen Brown. He's never been looked at as the top dog compared to Jason Tatum. If you were a GM in the league, anybody would take Jason Tatum over Jaylen Brown. You've kind of formatted that team around them 2 guys. I imagine Porzingis is not going to be with the Celtics next year. Al Horford's getting old. Will he probably hint with flirt with retirement now that he knows there's probably not a chance with Tatum being out? They're not winning anything next year, although the East is still weak. The team's not really formulated for Jaylen Brown to thrive because you're not going to have a big man. Drew Holiday should be back. I don't know where his contract is at right now as well. But you have to think this offense is 3-point oriented right now under Joe Mazzulla, which I disagree with to a certain degree. But what are you going to do now? Because Jaylen Brown is not super efficient shooting the 3 ball. It's something that the Celtics are going to have to think about over the summer. Joe Mazzulla, what is he going to do? Is he going to change his 3-point type format that he's got with his offense? You're losing a top 5 player in the NBA. It's a gut-wrenching situation to be in if you're the Boston Celtics. If you're a basketball fan, I know me. I am a Jason Tatum fan obviously, but I was rooting for the Knicks to win this series because I want to see the Knicks finally get over the hump. The storylines and everything else involved with it. But as a fan of basketball, as a fan of Jason Tatum, this is the last thing that you wanted to see. Because you want the best players out there playing and competing. And in this case, the Celtics are undermanned and they're out there fighting with one arm. I wish Jason Tatum a speedy recovery. Congratulations to the New York Knicks. They are more than likely going to play the Indiana Pacers, and it's going to be, I have the Knicks as the favorite to make it out of the East to the NBA Finals. I still think that whoever wins the West wins the championship. Whoever comes out of the West is going to win the NBA championship. But you got to give the Knicks credit. They are going to be a tough beat because this team's got grit and they got grind and they got shot-making ability. Their starters are able to make plays. They don't have much of a bench. So in these next two series, if they can get them done early, I know they're not going to get much rest because the Pacers and the Cavs are there. It's a 3-1 game as well, so the Pacers is 1 game away from winning. But still, the Knicks are going to have home court, so hopefully they can more than likely get that series over with as fast as possible and be warm, fresh, and energized to play the best 7 games or 6 games that they can in the NBA Finals. They are my favorites. I respect the heck out of the Pacers, even though I have not watched none of their games at all because I've not had a situation to be able to. I still think the Knicks are going to come out the East. Moving on to the very next game that we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about my Warriors. Look, I know Steph Curry was injured. I really get it. I get it. And it's really tough. This offense is really Steph Curry centric. You could see it in this game because I have one gripe this whole game. Jimmy Butler coming off the game that he had the very last game. This game, he acted like he did not want to shoot the basketball. You could tell by the way the Warriors run their plays, it's very Steph Curry centric. Without Steph Curry, it's like a puzzle is lost. Their offense, Steve Kerr has designed their offense to struggle. It is designed to struggle without the presence of Steph Curry. That's why these last couple seasons, since they've won the championship, their bench has struggled when Steph Curry is off the floor. Seasons ago, you didn't have to worry about that with people like Sean Livingston and everything else because you had shooters coming off the bench. That's not the case with the Warriors. You got guys like Kuminga and Gary Payton coming off the bench. You don't have an extra shooter coming off the bench. So, and it's very, I just didn't understand. So in the first half, Jonathan Kuminga showed up to play. If there is one thing, positive thing, that the Warriors can take away from this game, is the play of Jonathan Kuminga. Because he has showed up and he has showed out in this series now that Steve Kerr has gave him some minutes. But you couldn't get help. Jimmy Butler didn't shoot the ball enough. Draymond Green, he started off a little hot in the beginning, but he flatlined towards the end of the game. Julius Randle playing the game of his life again after having a very great performance the game before. He comes in here. He actually dropped a triple-double the game before, and he comes in and drops 30 this game. And then the man of the hour, Anthony Edwards, putting the nail in the coffin every chance it felt like when the Warriors were coming back to fight. When they were coming back hitting, I know specifically in the second half of this game, whenever the Warriors came down and hit a three, Anthony Edwards comebacks down and answers. They had star power, and the Warriors didn't have that. That was honestly one of the worst third quarters I have ever seen in my life. When I tell you, they could not make no shots. They were turning the ball over. It was very head-scratching coming from a Warriors team coached by Steve Kerr. They couldn't score the basketball. Their offense was anemic. It was anemic most of the night. My opinion is the only reason why they were able to relatively stay in this game was the fact that they were getting to the foul line. They couldn't get open looks. Their offense was relatively stagnant. There was many times where Jimmy Butler would have the ball at the top of the key. There's nobody moving around, no off-ball screens. All the off-ball screens, they were only mainly running their offense yesterday. Even though they ran an off-ball pick for Buddy Hield for open three here or there. But it was really Jimmy Butler, whoever's got the ball on top of the key, set me up on ball screen and hope and pray that we can get it and drive to the basket and do something with it. There was no plays of get nobody open. And I don't know if that's just because like I said earlier, the absence of Steph Curry, or it's just that the Warriors are not prepared and ready for the moment. It was the worst third quarter I have seen from a Steve Kerr-led team. The past 3 games has been one of the worst offensive-led Steve Kerr teams I've seen in a long time. There's no excuse. None at all. I understand Steph Curry is hurt, but this is a beatable Timberwolves team. I think Anthony Edwards is great, and I think Julius Randle is good. Not great. I think he's good because I got to give Julius Randle credit, but I still think a lot of this is an anomaly because we've seen throughout Julius Randle's career that he is very hit or miss. And in my opinion, the Timberwolves have just not played their best ball. I really don't. This team was very beatable. I'm disappointed in Jimmy Butler, and I'm disappointed in the Warriors in general. Pods, my Lord, he cannot hit the backside of a barn with his jump shot. I don't think he's hit probably one handful of threes all series. He cannot find his shot right now whatsoever. And I said earlier, there's no excuses because you traded for Jimmy Butler for this type of reason. The what if. Because if Jimmy Butler wasn't on the roster, if you still had Andrew Wiggins and everybody else, it would be rough to try and score on offense without Steph Curry. But you got that second superstar in Jimmy Butler, they call him playoff Jimmy, for Christ's sakes. He's used to carrying the load, being the guy. And for some reason, I don't know if it's just because Jimmy Butler's trying to live up to the Warriors culture type of mentality where he's kind of very passive, wants to move the ball around and get guys up, put more trust in his teammates instead of trying to force and play hero ball. But in my opinion, Jimmy Butler, you need to go back to playing hero ball because that's the only way the Warriors were getting out of this series. And now it's 3-1, and I don't see a scenario where the Warriors are coming back from this. It's tragic. Do I think if the Warriors had Curry, would it be a whole different series? Absolutely. We saw that in game 1. Because of the way that not this game, but the 2 games before this, the Wolves were very lackluster and very beatable on all fronts. I've been very disappointed in the way the Wolves have been playing because I expect more. Because they have some very careless turnovers here or there. Their shooting the basketball has been super inefficient. They haven't been rebounding the ball as well against the Warriors as I expected them to. The Warriors did a pretty good job getting to the boards yesterday. But if you're the Warriors, what are you going to do in the future? Steph Curry's getting older. You got to start planning for situations like this. Kuminga is a bright spot. You need to get this kid involved in the offense some type of way. Revolve the offense. We got to have Steve Kerr reminds me of Joe Mazzulla. If you're a one-trick pony right now on offense, if you can't shoot threes, you have no secondary backup plan to be able to counteract a situation if something isn't working. In this situation, Steph Curry is injured, so you cannot run a Steph Curry-centric offense with a lot of off-ball movement, this and this and that revolves around getting Steph Curry open off the ball and getting wide open jump shots. It's not going to work. Not with players like Buddy Hield, who's not fast at all, who is very reliant on getting. He's not a shot creator whatsoever like Curry is, so he's very reliant like a Klay Thompson. You got to give him the ball where he can just catch and shoot. Jimmy Butler, he can make his own shot, but he's not a facilitator. Kuminga, he's not a facilitator either. And Draymond Green, he is an offensive liability. He's only good for defense. Granted, Draymond Green has had this playoffs in general. He's had some streaky games here or there where he's made some jump shots. Even last night, he made a lot of good jump shots wide open. But you cannot have a team where Draymond Green, in the case of if Steph Curry's not playing, where Draymond Green is your second best scoring option. You can't. You got to continue to develop Kuminga, get Jimmy Butler back. You need some bigs. You need a big. I like Looney, but he's not that big that you want, like a Gobert physical presence type of big, like a Jokic. Not saying you need someone as good as Jokic, but you need a big like Şengün, like Steven Adams, who provide a presence. Because I really think that's the piece that they're missing because they're relatively small. I don't like that. But you got to find another. They need a piece. I say the Warriors are one piece away. Because back when they were winning championships, you had the big three. You had Steph, Klay, and Draymond. You have Steph, you have Jimmy. But Draymond is not in the phase of his career where he's scoring like he was. And in my opinion, you don't have bench players like you did on those past championship teams. So you have nobody else to come off the bench to rely on to get points. I think Kuminga could be that guy, but he's got to continue to grow up. And you got to continue, Steve Kerr has to continue to put faith in him. So, the T-Wolves are going to win this series. And there is no doubt in my mind that the winner of the West is going to more than likely win the NBA Finals, as I stated earlier. Let me know down below, what do you think about my analysis of these games. What do you think of the Warriors? What are they going to do in the future without Steph Curry? Should they plan for Steph Curry's departure in the future? I think they should. Not his departure, but they should go ahead and get your just a contingency plan together to get ready and prepare for a world without Steph Curry in the next 3 to 4 years. That's what they need to do. And our last topic that we are going to talk about is the NBA draft lottery. I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan. I am from North Carolina. But it seems to me that the draft lottery hates the Hornets. They don't want them to have a superstar in no way, form, or fashion, because I will never for the life of me understand how the Hornets keep getting screwed out of the draft lottery. Here are some guys that the Hornets have missed out on. Specifically, where they were the number 2 pick instead of the 1 pick. They missed out on Wemby last year. They missed out on Shaq. They missed out on Anthony Davis and drafted Michael Kidd-Gilchrist instead. And then now they miss out on a generational talent in Cooper Flagg. Now, the Dallas Mavericks was the team to win the lottery pick, the number 1 pick last night, and they have a 1.8% chance to get that pick. And a lot of people were getting conspiracy theories last night, and rightfully so. A lot of people think the NBA draft lottery is rigged because there's no way that the Mavs get bailed out like they did, but because they got rid of their star player in Luka Doncic, then all of a sudden they have arguably one of the best players, a generational talent coming out of the draft in this upcoming draft in Cooper Flagg, just falling right there at their footsteps. Because if you tell me, would you rather get a guy in Luka Doncic who is deemed as a one-trick pony, can only play offense, has no defensive presence, whatever, and a lot of people in the league have said this is a guy you can get to the championship, to the finals with, but they don't think he's going to be able to get that team over the hump. And you had to pay that guy $300 million on a supermax. Or would you get a kid who is a phenomenal prospect? I know I'm not a Duke fan, but I'm not being biased. You can ask anybody in this league. This kid is gifted. He is an all-around player. He can score. He can facilitate, and he defends. He's 6'9". He's going to play the 3. A lot of people would die to have a good small forward in the NBA. It's one of the most important positions. I would take that bet. If I'm Nico Harrison, I would bet on that upcoming prospect. And I know a lot of people have been saying we should get Nico Harrison off the hook. Absolutely not, because the Mavericks got lucky. 1.8% chance to win the lottery pick. I can't exactly remember the last time a team was ranked that low to get it and they got it. I don't even remember exactly who the team was. They brought it up, but I cannot remember. If I'm Cooper Flagg, I'm super happy. When's the last time a number 1 pick has went to a great situation? You're going to a team with the Mavs. You're going to have Kyrie Irving, even though he's not the Kyrie Irving in his prime, but he's still a good Kyrie Irving who was playing phenomenal last year, took the team to the finals. You got Anthony Davis. Still, he's on the latter end of his prime, but he's still a great darn player. PJ Washington, Derek Lively, the number 21, Gafford. You got some pieces. A lot of people were saying if this team was healthy, they could have contended for a finals this year because the Mavs are in a finals window after the Luka Doncic trade. And you're going to insert a Cooper Flagg into that team? Oh, that is a win-win. Win-win situation. As a basketball fan, me personally, I would have loved to have seen Cooper Flagg on the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama in his prime, got plenty of years of basketball left, alongside De'Aaron Fox, who is a bona fide stud. He's super underrated. I think De'Aaron Fox is a championship caliber point guard that you can use as a guy to lead the team, and you're inserting that with Cooper Flagg along with Stephen Castle, the dude who just won the Rookie of the Year, who a lot of people think is a great basketball player. That's a squad. That's something to think about. And I know a lot of people are bringing up, but it's San Antonio, Texas. It's a much smaller market compared to Dallas. Yes, I get it. You got a town right now in Dallas where if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Micah Parsons, you have George Pickens now, who is arguably could be a star in itself. The WNBA team for the Dallas, I think it's the Dallas Wings. They just got Paige Beckers in the draft. Now you're going to have Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving. They're stars in Dallas now. Big market, great market. For an NBA money standpoint, would you rather have them for the Mavs? On the Mavs? Absolutely. But as a fan of basketball, I would probably rather had them on the Spurs, but I would rather had them on the Hornets because I am a Hornets fan. Sad. Pain. But either way, I'm excited. And I know a lot of people are talking about them giving up the pick to trade for Giannis. I would not trade for Giannis. I would definitely bet on getting Cooper Flagg rather than trading your pick away for Giannis. Number one, anyways, because Giannis, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving, I don't like that fit. I don't like the idea of Giannis and Anthony Davis being on the same team. I do like the idea of Wemby and Giannis being on the same team, which a lot of people have said now that Giannis, more than likely, that's going to be his destination, them or the Rockets. I'd rather see him on the Spurs. Smaller market, get the Spurs of old, because it was good when the Spurs were relevant in basketball. We need the Spurs to get relevant again. Him, Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, great tandem as well. Exciting basketball coming up next year. And I know a lot of people have said that the NFL should implement the draft lottery. Absolutely not. I don't like the idea that a team that's struggling, a.k.a. the Hornets, can never get a good prospect to change the trajectory of a franchise. That's the only gripe I have with the lottery. I like the fact that, teams aren't able to tank, etc., competition reasons. I get it. I understand it. And I understand that. But me personally, the negatives outweigh the pros because I don't like the idea that a team in the NFL who is struggling and cannot have a superstar doesn't get the opportunity to get the best available player at the number one pick. You can't blame that on team building and on the GMs and etc. not being able to find talent. I get it. I wholeheartedly believe it. But you cannot tell me a town like Charlotte, who's dying for talent, has not had a talented player, has not had a generational player. We had Kemba Walker. He was great, but he's not a future Hall of Famer. He made one All-Star team, if I'm not mistaken. We have been devoid of talent. At least the Pelicans and New Orleans had Anthony Davis there for a minute, but we can't have nothing. I want a player that's going to force people to go into the turnstiles. I get it. LaMelo Ball's great, but he's not a future Hall of Famer type player. We need that type of player, like a Giannis. In my opinion, I would rather have De'Aaron Fox on my team than LaMelo Ball. At least he's available. I think that's LaMelo Ball's knock on LaMelo Ball that he's not available, but that's neither here nor there. The draft lottery, what did you guys think about it? Do you like the idea of Cooper Flagg joining the Mavs? Where do you think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to go now that he is not going to be on the Bucks in the foreseeable future, as reported by Shams Charania? I'm going to talk about that more in depth in another episode, but I just wanted to keep that short and sweet in this one. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode of the podcast, and let me know all your comments down below. Are you guys enjoying the playoffs? What did you think of the lottery? Let me know all of that down below in the comments. I thank you guys for joining me for yet another episode of the Alpha Podcast. And without further ado, I will see you guys on the next one. Be on the lookout for a couple of trailer reactions in the coming days because Superman is coming out with a trailer reaction in another day from today. I'm gonna be at a golf tournament, but you best believe I'm going to do it as soon as I get home. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys on the next one. hit the like button on the podcast and subscribe to the channel. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See ya.